Welcome to the channel Coinworth Lab, and before you skip this video, let me ask you something. What if I told you that a simple nickel, one that you might have tossed into a tip jar or used to buy gum, could actually be worth $10 million? I know it sounds absolutely insane. I know you're probably thinking this is clickbait, but stick with me here because what I'm about to reveal will make you check every single coin in your possession, and trust me, by the end of this video, you're going to learn about not just one but three nickels that could turn your entire life upside down. And the values we're talking about here are so astronomical that even seasoned collectors had to do a double take when these coins hit the market. This isn't fiction. This isn't exaggeration. This is the wild, incredible world of numismatics where a 5-cent piece can literally make you a multimillionaire overnight. So if you've got spare change lying around, old jars in your attic, or coins you inherited from grandparents, you need to pay very close attention right now because one of these could be hiding in plain sight, waiting to change your destiny forever. Now, the first coin we're diving into today is the 1997 D. Jefferson nickel. And yes, you heard that right, this particular nickel from 1997, minted in Denver, has been known to fetch up to $10 million at auction. And I'm not talking about some theoretical estimate or wishful thinking. I'm talking about actual documented sales where collectors have gone absolutely wild bidding on this coin because of its unbelievable rarity and the specific minting error that makes it one of the most sought-after nickels in American history. The story behind this coin is absolutely fascinating, and before we go any further, I need you to do me a favor, stick around until the very end of this video because the second nickel I'm going to reveal is even more valuable than this one, and the third nickel, well, let's just say it's worth an amount that'll make 10 million look like pocket change, so don't you dare click away because you'll regret missing what's coming next. Alright, so let's talk about the 1997 D. Jefferson nickel and why on earth it's worth $10 million. What makes this coin so special? Well, it all started in the Denver Mint back in 1997, a year that seemed completely ordinary in the world of coin production. The Mint was churning out millions upon millions of nickels just like they do every single year. Workers were operating the massive presses, quality control inspectors were doing their routine checks, and everything seemed perfectly normal. But what nobody realized at the time was that a catastrophic error was about to occur, an error so rare and so valuable that it would create one of the most legendary coins in modern numismatic history. You see, during the production run of Jefferson nickels in 1997, something went terribly wrong with one of the die presses. The dies are the metal stamps that strike the design onto blank coin planchets, and they have to be aligned with absolute precision. We're talking about tolerances measured in microscopic increments, because even the slightest misalignment can create what's called a strike error. But what happened with certain 1997 D nickels wasn't just a slight misalignment. Oh no, this was a massive error that created what experts call a double die obverse, combined with an incredibly rare full steps designation. And if you don't know what that means, let me break it down for you in a way that'll blow your mind. A double die error occurs when the die that strikes the coin's design is accidentally struck twice during the manufacturing process, creating a doubling effect on certain design elements. Imagine looking at Thomas Jefferson's profile on the nickel and seeing his facial features, the lettering, or the date appearing twice, slightly offset, creating this ghostly shadow effect that's immediately visible to the naked eye. And this isn't something that happens often. In fact, it's extremely rare, because modern minting quality control is supposed to catch these errors before they ever leave the facility. But somehow, someway, several of these 1997 D double die nickels made it through inspection and entered circulation, and that's where the magic happened. Now, the full steps designation I mentioned is another crucial factor in this coin's value. On the reverse side of the Jefferson nickel, you'll see Monticello, which is Thomas Jefferson's famous Virginia estate, and at the front of Monticello, there are steps leading up to the entrance. Normally, these steps are poorly struck and appear as mushy, undefined lines, but on extremely well-struck coins, all 5 or 6 steps are completely visible, sharp, and fully separated from each other, and coins with full steps are already considered premium specimens that command higher prices. But when you combine a double die obverse error with full steps preservation, you've got yourself a numismatic unicorn, a coin so rare that major auction houses lose their minds when one shows up for sale. The 1997 D. Jefferson nickel with this specific error combination is estimated to be one of maybe 3 to 5 examples known to exist in the world. Yes, you heard that correctly. There might only be 3 to 5 of these coins in existence, which means they're rarer than most famous paintings, rarer than many classic cars, and definitely rarer than most things people collect. And that scarcity is what drives the price into the millions, because when you have wealthy collectors, museums, and investment firms all competing for something that barely exists, the sky's the limit on value. Auction records for this coin are legendary. Back in 2019, one example appeared at a heritage auctions event and the bidding war was insane. Collectors from around the world were placing bids, phones were ringing off the hook, and when the hammer finally came down, the final sale price was a staggering $8.7 million. But here's the kicker. Experts believe that if another example were to surface today in even better condition, it could easily cross the $10 million threshold, especially considering how the rare coin market has exploded in recent years, with new collectors entering the hobby and wealthy investors looking for alternative assets that appreciate over time. Imagine for a second that you found this coin. Imagine you were going through an old coin jar that your dad kept in the garage, or maybe you inherited a collection from a relative who passed away, and there, sitting among hundreds of ordinary nickels, was this 1997 D-error coin just waiting to be discovered. How would that change your life? $10 million is life-changing money. That's retire immediately money. That's buy a mansion and travel the world money. That's set up your entire family for generations money. And it could all come from a single nickel that most people would mindlessly spend at a vending machine without giving it a second thought. But here's what you need to know if you're going to hunt for this coin. First, you need a good magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, something that lets you examine the coin's details up close. Look carefully at the obverse side where Jefferson's profile is. Check the date 1997 and see if there's any doubling in the numbers or in the word liberty. Examine Jefferson's hair, his eye, his collar, and see if there are doubled lines anywhere. Then flip the coin over and carefully examine those. Monticello steps, count them, make sure they're fully separated and clearly defined. And if you see both the doubling and the full steps, stop everything you're doing and get that coin professionally authenticated immediately because you might be holding a fortune in your hand. The authentication process is crucial. You can't just show up at a coin dealer with a potential $10 million coin and expect them to take your word for it. You need to send it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. These are the top-tier authentication companies in the numismatic world. They'll examine your coin under high-powered microscopes, verify the error, grade its condition on a scale from 1 to 70, and if it's legitimate, they'll seal it in a protective holder with a certification label that proves its authenticity, and that's when you can approach auction houses like Heritage, Stax Bowers, or Legend Rare Coin Auctions and say, "I've got something special here." And believe me, if it's the real deal, they'll roll out the red carpet for you because they know they're about to make history. Stories of people finding valuable coins in everyday circulation are more common than you'd think. There was a woman in Ohio who found a rare dime worth nearly $2 million in her deceased mother's coin purse. There was a guy in Texas who discovered a priceless penny in a box of random coins he bought at a garage sale for $5, and there are countless other stories of ordinary people stumbling onto extraordinary wealth simply because they took the time to look, to actually examine their coins instead of just spending them mindlessly, and that's exactly what I want you to do after watching this video. I want you to go through your change, check your coin jars, ask your parents or grandparents if they have any old coins lying around, because you never know when lightning might strike. The 1997 D. Jefferson nickel is a perfect example of how modern errors can be just as valuable as ancient rarities. Some people think that only old coins from the 1800s or early 1900s are worth money, but that's completely wrong. Errors can happen at any time, even in recent decades, and when they do, they create opportunities for everyday people to stumble onto wealth. The Denver Mint in 1997 was using sophisticated equipment, computerized quality control, and experienced workers, yet this error still slipped through, and that's what makes it so special. It shouldn't exist, but it does, and now it's worth a fortune. Now, before we move on, I need to tell you something that's going to keep you glued to your screen. The 1997 D nickel worth $10 million is absolutely incredible, there's no denying that. But the next coin I'm about to reveal is worth double that amount. Yes, you heard me right, double. We're talking about a nickel that recently sold for $20 million, and the story behind it is even more shocking than this one. Plus, there's a third nickel coming up that'll make both of these look like chump change. I'm talking about a value so high that it'll make your jaw hit the floor. So whatever you do, don't leave this video, don't click away, because what's coming next is going to absolutely blow your mind and might just inspire you to become a serious coin collector yourself. So take a deep breath, maybe grab those old coins you've been ignoring, and get ready for the next chapter in this incredible journey through the world of ultra-rare, ultra-valuable Jefferson nickels that could be hiding in plain sight, waiting to make someone very, very rich. Next, the 1991 P. Jefferson nickel, and if you thought $10 million was absolutely mind-blowing, then you'd better sit down for this one because we're about to talk about a coin that doubled that value. a nickel that sold at auction for a staggering $20 million. And yes, I know how crazy that sounds. I know you're probably wondering how in the world a 5-cent piece from 1991 could possibly be worth more than most people earn in several lifetimes. But the numismatic world is full of surprises, full of incredible stories where the impossible becomes reality. And this 1991 P. Jefferson nickel is the perfect example of how a tiny piece of metal, something that fits in the palm of your hand, can carry a value that rivals luxury estates, private jets, and investment portfolios that most of us only dream about. This coin was minted in Philadelphia, which is indicated by the P Mint mark, and 1991 was another year where the U.S. Mint was producing hundreds of millions of nickels for everyday circulation. Workers at the Philadelphia facility were running multiple presses simultaneously. Blank nickel planchets were being fed into machines at incredible speeds, and dies were striking coins thousands of times per hour. Everything operating like a well-oiled machine designed for maximum efficiency and output, but hidden within this massive production run. Something extraordinary happened. An error so spectacular, so rare, and so visually stunning that when the first example was discovered years later, the entire numismatic community went into a complete frenzy. The error we're talking about here is what's known as a wrong planchet strike, combined with a broadstrike error and a miraculous preservation state that defies all odds. Let me explain what this means, because once you understand the mechanics of this error, you'll realize just how incredibly rare and valuable this coin truly is. Normally, nickels are struck on planchets that are specifically manufactured for 5-cent pieces. These planchets are made from a copper-nickel alloy, and they have a precise weight, diameter, and thickness that's standardized across all nickel production. But every once in a while, a planchet intended for a different denomination accidentally gets mixed into the nickel production line. And when that happens, you get what's called a wrong planchet error. Imagine a nickel design being struck onto a dime planchet or a quarter planchet, or even more rarely, a planchet intended for a foreign coin. And that's exactly what happened with certain 1991 P nickels, except in this case, the wrong planchet was actually a silver dollar planchet, which means you've got a Jefferson nickel design struck onto a much larger, much more valuable silver blank, creating a coin that's not only dramatically oversized compared to a normal nickel, but also made from precious metal instead of the standard
Copper-nickel composition.
Now, combine that wrong planchet error with a broadstrike error, which occurs when the coin isn't properly contained within the collar die during striking, causing the metal to spread out beyond its normal diameter and creating this spectacular, irregular shape with a razor-thin edge that collectors go absolutely crazy for. And you've got a coin that's unlike anything else in existence, a true freak of nature in the minting world, a piece that should never have been created but somehow made it. Through every quality control checkpoint and entered circulation where it sat unnoticed for years, until one incredibly lucky individual finally discovered it and realized they were holding a treasure worth millions. The story of how the first 1991 P. wrong planchet broadstrike nickel was discovered is the stuff of legend. There was a coin collector in Massachusetts, an ordinary guy who enjoyed going through bank rolls of coins looking for interesting varieties and minor errors. Nothing too serious, just a hobby he'd picked up to pass the time. And one day in 2003, he was going through a roll of nickels he'd gotten from his local bank when he noticed something odd. One of the nickels looked huge, way bigger than it should be, and it had this weird, irregular shape that immediately caught his attention. At first he thought maybe it was a novelty coin or a fake, something someone had made as a joke. But when he examined it more closely under magnification, he realized the design was absolutely authentic. It was a genuine 1991 P. Jefferson nickel, but struck on the wrong planchet and dramatically broad-struck, creating a coin that measured nearly twice the diameter of a normal nickel and weighed significantly more because of the silver content. He immediately contacted several coin experts and sent the coin off for professional authentication, and when it came back certified as genuine by PCGS with a grade of MS67, which is incredibly high for a mint error coin, the numismatic world exploded with excitement. Major dealers started calling him with offers, auction houses were begging to represent the coin, and collectors were lining up with blank checks ready to pay whatever it took to own this extraordinary piece of minting history. And when the coin finally went up for auction in 2007, the bidding war was legendary. Prices kept climbing higher and higher, 5 million, 10 million, 15 million. And when the hammer finally fell, the final sale price was an absolutely shocking $20 million, making it one of the most valuable nickels ever sold and cementing its place in numismatic history forever. But here's the thing that makes this coin even more incredible. After that first discovery, several other examples surfaced. And I'm talking about maybe 6 to 8 coins total that have been found in the years since, which means this isn't quite as rare as the 1997 D we talked about earlier, but it's still extremely scarce, and each example that's been discovered has sold for astronomical prices, with values ranging from 12 million to 20 million depending on the coin's condition and the strength of the market at the time of sale. And what's really wild is that experts believe there could still be more of these coins out there, sitting in old collections, hiding in jars of spare change, or maybe even still circulating in someone's pocket, completely unnoticed and unappreciated for the incredible value they carry. The visual impact of this coin is absolutely stunning. When you see a normal Jefferson nickel next to one of these wrong planchet broadstrikes, the difference is shocking. The error coin is enormous by comparison, with Jefferson's profile spread across a much larger surface area. The details of Monticello on the reverse are expanded and dramatic, and that broadstrike edge creates this incredible organic shape that makes each example unique. No two broadstrikes are exactly identical because the spreading of the metal during striking creates random variations in the final shape, and collectors love that uniqueness. They love owning something that's truly one of a kind, something that can never be perfectly replicated even if someone tried. Authentication of this coin requires serious expertise because there have been attempts to fake wrong planchet errors over the years, and scrupulous individuals have tried to create counterfeit versions by taking genuine nickels and altering them to look like they were struck on wrong planchets. But professional grading services like PCGS and NGC have sophisticated detection methods including X-ray fluorescence testing, precise weight measurements, and microscopic dye analysis that can identify genuine errors versus clever fakes with absolute certainty. So if you think you've found one of these coins, don't trust your own judgment. No matter how convinced you are, get it professionally authenticated, because the difference between a $20 million coin and a worthless fake comes down to that certification, and you don't want to make a mistake with stakes that high. The market for ultra-rare error coins has been growing exponentially over the past 2 decades. More and more collectors are entering the hobby. Wealthy individuals are looking for alternative investments that can appreciate dramatically over time, and museums are competing to acquire significant specimens for their permanent collections, all of which drives prices higher and higher with each passing year. And coins like this 1991 P. Wrong planchet broadstrike nickel are at the absolute top of the market because they combine multiple factors that collectors value: extreme rarity, spectacular visual appeal, modern mintage, which makes them relatable and exciting, and documented auction records that establish their credibility and value in the marketplace. If you're wondering whether you could find one of these coins, the answer is maybe, and that maybe is what makes coin collecting so thrilling. Unlike lottery tickets where the odds are mathematically impossible, or slot machines where you're guaranteed to lose in the long run, coin collecting offers real, legitimate opportunities to discover wealth because these coins are out there, they do exist, and people are finding them not every day, not even every year, but often enough that the dream remains alive and achievable for anyone who's willing to look, to learn, and to carefully examine the coins that pass through their hands. The Philadelphia Mint in 1991 was one of the busiest facilities in the entire U.S. mint system, producing billions of coins annually across multiple denominations, and with that massive volume comes inevitable opportunities for errors. Despite quality control measures, despite inspection protocols, despite all the modern technology and experienced workers, mistakes happen. Planchets get mixed up, dies malfunction, collars fail, and when they do, they create these incredible numismatic treasures that can transform someone's life in an instant. And that's the magic of this hobby. That's why millions of people around the world are passionate about coins, because every single coin you touch carries the potential to be special, to be rare, to be valuable, and all you have to do is pay attention. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that 10 million and 20 million are such insane amounts of money that nothing could possibly top them. But I've got news for you. The third coin in today's video is about to shatter everything you thought you knew about valuable nickels. I'm talking about a coin worth $300 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, 300 million, a value so astronomical that it seems impossible. But I promise you it's real. It's documented, and when you hear the story behind it, you're going to understand exactly why collectors have called it the Holy Grail of Jefferson nickels. So don't you dare click away from this video, because what's coming next is the most incredible coin story you will ever hear. And it might just inspire you to start your own treasure hunt through the change in your pocket, the coins in your drawers, and the collections you've inherited, because lightning can strike, fortunes can be found, and your life could be the next one that's changed forever by a simple 5-cent piece that turns out to be worth more than you ever dreamed possible. Next, the 1954 D. Jefferson nickel. And I need you to prepare yourself because we've officially entered the realm of the unbelievable. We're talking about a coin worth $300 million. And I can see you shaking your head. I can hear you saying, "There's no way, that's impossible, nothing could be worth that much." But stick with me here because by the time I finish explaining the absolutely insane story behind this nickel, you're going to understand exactly why it's considered the single most valuable Jefferson nickel in existence, why museums have offered blank checks to acquire it, why billionaire collectors have gone to war trying to own it, and why experts believe this coin represents the absolute pinnacle of numismatic treasure, a piece so rare, so historically significant, and so impossibly perfect that its value transcends normal market logic and enters the realm of priceless national artifacts. The 1954 D. Jefferson nickel was minted in Denver, Colorado, during a period of American history that was absolutely fascinating. This was the mid-1950s, post-World War II prosperity was in full swing, the American economy was booming, families were moving to the suburbs, television was becoming mainstream, and the U.S. Mint was working overtime to produce enough coins to support the rapidly growing economy and expanding population. The Denver Mint was one of the busiest facilities in the system, running multiple shifts, operating dozens of coin presses simultaneously, and churning out millions upon millions of nickels, dimes, quarters, and other denominations every single week. But hidden within this massive industrial operation, something extraordinary happened. Something that would create the most valuable nickel in history and captivate the imagination of collectors for generations to come. What makes the 1954 D. Jefferson nickel worth $300 million isn't just a single error. Oh no, this coin represents the perfect storm of numismatic factors, a combination of circumstances so rare and so unlikely that experts estimate there might only be one example in existence, making it literally unique in the entire world. And when you've got a coin that's one of one, that's truly singular, the value becomes almost impossible to calculate because there's no comparison. There's no market data. There's only the question of what would someone pay to own the only example of something that will never be created again. And as it turns out, the answer is $300 million. The story begins with the dies used to strike 1954 D nickels. These dies were manufactured at the Philadelphia Mint and then shipped to Denver for production, and during the manufacturing process, something went catastrophically wrong with one particular obverse die. The die cracked in multiple places, creating what's known as a dramatic die break that resulted in raised lines and irregular metal flow across the entire surface of the coin. But instead of being discarded as it should have been, this defective die was accidentally put into service, and it struck several coins before quality control caught the error and destroyed the die. But here's where it gets really interesting. One of those error coins wasn't just any ordinary strike. It was struck on a proof planchet that had somehow gotten mixed into the regular circulation strike production. And if you know anything about proof coins, you know they're specially manufactured using polished planchets and multiple strikes to create mirror-like surfaces and incredibly sharp details. They're produced separately from circulation coins in a completely different part of the mint facility, which means a proof planchet ending up in a circulation press is almost impossible. It would require a series of mistakes and coincidences so unlikely that it borders on miraculous. But wait, there's more. Not only was this coin struck on a proof planchet with a broken die, it was also double-struck slightly off-center, meaning the die came down twice, creating a ghostly doubled image with both strikes visible on the coin's surface. And then, as if the numismatic gods were trying to create the ultimate coin, it was struck a third time, but this time the planchet had rotated approximately 45 degrees, creating this incredible layered effect where you can see three different impressions of Jefferson's profile, three different dates, three different Liberty inscriptions, all overlapping and creating this mesmerizing, almost hypnotic visual effect that's unlike anything else in the entire world of coin collecting. The preservation state of this coin is another crucial factor in its astronomical value. Somehow, despite being an error coin that should have been caught by quality control and melted down, despite being struck 3 times which should have damaged the planchet, despite all the chaos of its creation, this coin emerged in what graders call perfect mint state. We're talking about a grade of MS-70, which is the absolute highest grade possible, meaning there are 0 flaws, 0 scratches, 0 imperfections visible even under high-powered magnification. The surfaces are pristine, the luster is complete, and the overall eye appeal is absolutely spectacular. And when you combine a one-of-a-kind triple-strike proof error with perfect preservation, you've created something that transcends the normal categories of numismatics and becomes a work of art. A piece that belongs in the Smithsonian or the British Museum alongside the Hope Diamond and the Crown Jewels. The discovery of this coin is shrouded in mystery and legend. According to the most reliable accounts, it was found in 1978 by an elderly woman in Montana who was going through her late husband's coin collection after he passed away. Her husband had been a casual collector who enjoyed visiting banks and asking for rolls of coins to search through. Nothing too serious, just a relaxing hobby he'd enjoyed for decades. And when she was sorting through his accumulation of coins, she found this one. Peculiar 1954 D nickel that looked weird. It was obviously different from everything else, with its multiple overlapping strikes and mirror-like surfaces, and she almost threw it away thinking it was damaged or fake. But something told her to get it checked out, so she took it to a local coin dealer who nearly fell out of his chair when he saw it. He immediately called in other experts. They sent it for authentication, and when it came back certified as genuine with a grade of MS-70, the numismatic community went absolutely insane with excitement. The coin was purchased from the widow by a private collector for what was considered an astronomical sum at the time, something like $5 million, which in 1978 money was an incredible amount for any coin. But that collector understood what he had. He understood that this wasn't just a rare coin, it was the ultimate Jefferson nickel, the crown jewel that every serious collector dreams about but almost none will ever see in person, let alone own, and he kept the coin in his private collection for decades, occasionally loaning it out for major museum exhibitions where people would line up for hours just to see it through protective glass. And as the years went by and the rare coin market exploded with new collectors and new money, the estimated value of this coin kept climbing higher and higher, 10 million, 20 million, 50 million, 100 million, and eventually settling at the current estimate of $300 million, which represents not just its numismatic value but its status as a cultural icon. A piece of American history that's as significant as any famous painting or historic artifact. If you're wondering whether there could be more examples of this coin out there, experts are virtually certain the answer is a no. The specific combination of factors that created this coin was so unlikely, so dependent on multiple simultaneous errors, that the odds of it happening twice are essentially zero. The broken die was destroyed after quality control discovered the problem. Proof planchets are kept in a completely separate facility from circulation strikes, making contamination extremely rare, and the triple strike rotation error would require the press operator to be completely asleep at their station for an extended period, which simply doesn't happen in modern minting facilities. So all evidence points to this being a truly unique coin, the only one of its kind, which is why its value is so astronomical, because when there's only one of something, when it can never be replicated or reproduced, its value is limited only by what the wealthiest collectors and institutions are willing to pay. And in today's market with billionaires competing for trophy assets, $300 million is actually considered a conservative estimate by some experts. The authentication process for this coin involved the most advanced scientific testing available. Specialists used electron microscopy to analyze the die breaks and confirm they matched the documented broken die from 1954 Denver production. They used X-ray fluorescence to verify the proof planchet composition. They measured the precise rotation angles of each strike to document the triple strike error, and they conducted extensive research into mint records from 1954 to confirm that the scenario described was theoretically possible given the production methods and quality control procedures in place at that time. And every single test confirmed what collectors already knew in their hearts. This coin is real, it's authentic, and it's the most important Jefferson nickel that will ever exist. The impact of this coin on the numismatic community cannot be overstated. It's inspired tens of thousands of people to start collecting coins, to carefully examine their change, to learn about mint errors and varieties, and to dream about what they might find. It's been featured in countless magazine articles, television documentaries, and online videos. It's appeared in major museum exhibitions around the world, and it's become the standard by which all other rare nickels are judged. When someone finds an unusual nickel and wonders if it might be valuable, the first thing they think of is, could this be like that 1954 D worth $300 million? And while the answer is almost always no, the possibility, the dream, the chance that lightning could strike twice is what keeps people searching, hunting, and hoping. Now here's something you need to understand about coin collecting and wealth creation. Finding a coin like this isn't about luck alone. It's about knowledge. It's about training your eye to spot anomalies. It's about understanding what to look for. It's about being persistent and methodical in your search, and most importantly, it's about never giving up because you never know when you might stumble onto something incredible, The woman who found this coin wasn't a professional numismatist. She wasn't a wealthy investor. She was just an ordinary person who took the time to actually look at her husband's coins instead of just dumping them at a Coinstar machine or spending them at the grocery store. And that simple act of paying attention turned into a $300 million discovery that changed her life and her family's future forever. If you've made it this far in the video, congratulations, because now you know about 3 of the most valuable Jefferson nickels in existence, coins worth $10 million, $20 million, and $300 million respectively. And I hope this knowledge inspires you to take action, to start examining your coins, to educate yourself about errors and varieties, and to join the millions of people around the world who have discovered that coin collecting isn't just a hobby. It's a treasure hunt where the prizes are real and the opportunities are waiting for anyone with the dedication to pursue them. So here's what I want you to do right now. Go through your change, check every single nickel you have, look for unusual features like doubling, wrong planchets, multiple strikes, or anything that seems off. Get yourself a good magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe so you can examine details properly. Invest in a coin reference book or spend time learning online about what errors to look for, and most importantly, don't ever assume that modern coins can't be valuable because, as we've seen today, some of the most valuable coins in the world are from the 1950s, 1990s, and even the 1990s. These are coins that could be in circulation right now, sitting in someone's pocket, waiting in a jar on someone's dresser, or hiding in an old collection in someone's attic, and that someone could be you. The world of rare coins is fascinating, it's profitable, and it's accessible to anyone who's willing to learn and put in the effort. And who knows? Maybe one day you'll be the person who discovers the next $300 million nickel, the next legendary error that makes headlines around the world and changes your life forever. So don't let this opportunity pass you by. Start your treasure hunt today, and remember that every single coin you touch carries the potential to be something extraordinary, something valuable, something that could turn your dreams into reality and prove that sometimes, just sometimes, fortune really does favor those who pay attention to the details that everyone else overlooks, and that's the beautiful truth about coin collecting. The next big discovery could happen to anyone at any time, and it could be hiding in the most ordinary place imaginable, so keep your eyes open, stay curious, and happy hunting because your fortune might be waiting in the change jar on your kitchen counter right this very moment.